Hey, yo, what's going on? I'm Josh Martinez with another edition of the Superstar Crossover Podcast with Z100, New York's #1 hit music station. But things are a little different today. In the Duncan Music Lounge, we have our guest, possibly the next All Elite Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. Let's show some love to Darby Allin.
Hello.
Hello, sir. There you go. Just drop it, dude. It's fine. So let's just I just like to have these conversations and chat. I mean, before I brought you in, I said potentially the next AEW World Heavyweight Champion. When you hear that out loud, what runs through your mind?
To me, when I hear that, I think of being the face of this company, and I think there's no better person in this whole company to be the face of it than me, because I was never the guy on the indies. I was never meant to really make it in the grand scheme of wrestling as a top guy. And through AEW and them just saying, do you, dude, like chains off, do whatever you want. And I've just connected so well with people that I feel like it's just no better person to show what this place is capable of building.
From a complimentary standpoint, what has been like the best compliment you've gotten from someone, whether it's maybe they compared you to someone else or maybe just someone sliding into your DMs like, hey, you're killing it, dude?
I think compliment-wise, it's just from a guy like Sting, for example, like just being like, hey, man, don't change a thing. What you're doing is working. And that's what he said in the very first conversation I've ever had with him. You know, the very first time I met him, he's like, I love your work, I love your promos, I love your look, whatever, you know what I mean? Like your cinematic stuff that you film, like just keep doing that, don't change. And I was like, whoa, it's kind of cool, it's validation, you know, and because when you first enter wrestling, there's a lot of different routes to take, and it gets kind of intimidating in a way. You're like, can I do this? Because I know it's going to work. Well, this guy looks really clean cut and like, you know, prim and proper. Should I go that route? Should I be a pretty boy? What should I do? And you're like, nah, man, just do you.
Was there anything that you wanted to do in a match and someone was like, hey, dog, don't do that, liability, or just don't?
Yeah, but I did it anyways. I think a good example is the glass.
Okay.
The glass was Sting in the last match. People were like, man, this is really dangerous. And like that wasn't sugar glass, that was shower door glass.
And that was that your like sole idea, or was it just something that you were battering around with friends to try?
No, that was my sole idea. I think that like I was like, man, this is Sting's last match. You only get one shot at this. Like we have to go balls to the wall, all out crazy. Like, what can we do? And then it's like I just thought of that. I don't know why that, but I just thought of that.
Did you think of other things and then landed on that, or was it just like one and done? That's the one idea. That's what I'm going with.
Well, there was ideas of fire, but like it was just like I think the glass was pretty much, you know, there's no way of faking glass. You know what I mean? Unless you use sugar glass, but I ain't gonna play with that. Give me the good stuff. And I think, you know, with wrestling, everything I do in wrestling, I want it to, there's no holes through it. You can't see through it. You know, me getting thrown down a flight of steps at Daly's Place by Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, that sucked. You know what I mean? Like that's cement stairs, you know, like, but I don't want anyone like, oh, there's like padding. No.
You can't fake cement.
No.
It's shoot cement. What was the worst bump that you've taken in your career?
The worst bump?
Yeah.
Oh, man, there was one time I was wrestling on the Independence years ago. I believe it was 2018. 2018. I was wrestling in New Orleans, and they have no padding around the ring. You know, just indies. They don't.
It costs money to put mats down.
Yeah. And I did a dive outside the ring, but my head hit the ground, and I started kind of convulsing, and I had to get rushed to the hospital, and I was bleeding from the brain, and they put me under, and I thought like that was like next level, like, oh shit, like it was like, you know, because you get the wind knocked out of you or you get a broken bone, but stuff with your brain I feel like is next level, you know what I mean? Because you're like, I remember they're like, okay, you can't drive for like a month after this. You have to like sit in a dark room and just really chill out. And I remember I just like grabbed the car and just started driving downtown Atlanta. And I don't even know what I was doing. I was like, where'd you go? I was like, I'm in downtown. Like, why'd you? And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, oh, like.
So from when, like a bump, like when that happens, are you conscious or were you like knocked out? And then
I was knocked out,
Okay.
and then I finished the match, and it's kind of ironic because the finish was a top rope power bomb, and I was the one taking it and not giving it. So it was salt on the wounds.
it just hurts to be Darby Allin.
Yeah, but no, right now I actually feel really great because a lot of people don't know what my physical recovery regimen's like. I'm like awesome friends with DDP, and he lives like 45 minutes from me, and he's the king of physical recovery. So every time he gets this new contraption, it's like I go over there, and it feels like we're playing a game of Saw where we're just putting ourselves through like some crazy challenges. But it's just like it feels great. Like my whole downstairs is like literally a physical recovery laboratory. Like I feel amazing. So everybody asks me like, "How are you feeling, man? You ain't gonna be able to do this when you're 30." I'm like, "Well, I'm 30 and I feel great."
What would you say is the most important aspect of the recovery process? Like, is there a certain machine or is it just yoga? Is it just making sure that like your neck is okay? What would you say is most important?
I think the biggest thing is the mind. You know, it sounds crazy, but I talked to Rick Rubin because he's really big into meditation. I talked to him about meditation, and then he put me on to TM meditation. I went to a 3-day program where I learned the art of TM meditation, and it keeps you balanced because I feel like if the mind is gone, it does not matter how good your body is.
Now you were gonna scale, what mountain was it?
Mount Everest.
Yeah, slight flex. You broke your foot.
2 weeks before I was supposed to go, and everybody said that was fate. Like that was fate that you weren't supposed to climb, and I was like, it's happening this year.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. Do you take it as a sign of, all right, maybe this is some sort of reason not to do it?
No, I take it as a sign of I really need to do it now.
Okay.
Like I wanted to do it, but now I really want to do it.
So what goes into the preparation of training to literally put your life on the line as you scale a mountain?
So a big part of it is I have zero mountain experience whatsoever. So I got this machine at my house called the Live O2, and it replicates the air on Mount Everest. So it's like a big bag that you plug it in the wall, and it puts like this air tank, and you wear this mask and you do cardio for like 30 minutes, and it kills you. But that and the ice bath, I went on these mountains. We summited mountains in Kathmandu, Nepal, called Lobuche, which is like 22,000 feet. And I felt incredible, like summiting it. And they were like, "Damn, you have zero experience. How'd you feel so good?" Mind you, the people I was with were shitting their pants, coughing up blood, throwing up.
And they're like the professionals, right? In
Essentially,
theory,
yeah. And I was like, I feel pretty good. I'm just tired because I've been up for 25 hours. And then I summited the mountain because my sleep, you can't really sleep that good when you have no oxygen. It's something I found out the hard way. So I was like, I stayed up for 25 hours. Now I'm climbing this 22,000 foot mountain. But I was like delirious, but I did it. And I was like, whoa. And they're like, "Man, how'd you do it?" And I was like, I don't know if it's like the wrestling, because wrestling's so hard, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. But I felt great. So I was really excited. They were telling me, "Man, you are going to rock it at Mount Everest. The only thing that's going to stop you is an avalanche or a Yeti." But it was just like, I'm very confident. I'm very confident. And I broke the foot, got 3 metal plates put in there, but it hasn't slowed me down. I came back to wrestling, rocking, and I went back to skateboarding, rocking. And just the other week, I wanted to really test the foot out, so I jumped off a 60-foot waterfall, and it felt great.
You could have done like physical therapy stretching to see if your foot was fine instead of jumping off of shit.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing though. It's just, I wrestle such an intense way that the physical therapists don't understand that, But I do a lot of physical therapy.
So working with someone like Sting the last few years like you have, and being in a locker room with so many veterans, what advice do they give you in regards to knowing when it's time to like hang it up?
I don't know. They don't really give me advice because Sting's 64 years old jumping off of balconies. I think at the end of the day, he just says he never wanted to become a parody of himself. He never wanted to stay in the game long enough to become a joke, where it's like a shell of his former self. And I felt like in his final run, you can't argue and say that Sting wasn't doing some of the best work his whole entire career. So I think he left with his dignity intact. And that's the thing is, like, I want to leave when it's time to leave. I don't want to stay too long for the encore and then be like, "Oh man, Darby is a shell of his former self. What a joke. Give it up, old man." But
When did you find out, hey, you are going to be part of Sting's last match? This is legit. This is a thing. And then what were your feelings when you found out that you were going to be such a focal point to that whole run?
See, like, I didn't know, I felt like they had me sitting in the rafters during the pandemic, and I didn't even know why. And then, like, Cody came up to me, and he's like, you know why you're doing this, right? I was like, I don't know, just it's creepy. And then he's just like, no, like, Sting's coming in. I'm like, oh, shit. He's like, yeah. And I think we want him to be your partner. And I was like, oh, whoa, that's crazy, And so the chemistry with us just worked so well. And I pretty much knew when he said, like, hey, I want you this whole time by my side. So early on, I knew I was going to be a part of whatever the last match was, but we just didn't know how we were going to get there or what we were going to do or who it was going to be again. So it's just there's a lot of twists and turns, but it's just, it was a validation because, like I said, he told me not to change a single thing. So it was validation that I belonged.
So speaking of twists and turns, AEW Grand Slam is coming up this week. You're in a match. You are technically number one contender for the World Heavyweight Champion. John Moxley wants to take that from you. And then somewhere in the back, Christian's just chilling, waiting to take it from you. And then, hey, if Nigel McGuinness happens to win against Danielson, if that match happens, there's just a lot going on in that main event title picture. If you had it your way, how do you become World Heavyweight Champion?
In Seattle at Wrestle Dream. People are thinking I'm stupid for putting my number one contendership because, I don't want to wrestle Brian that's not 100%. When I become the face of this company and I beat Brian for that world championship, I want to do it when he's at 100% because I don't want there to be any asterisks next to my championship win. But another reason I felt like I needed to put this on the line against Moxley is because he was my guy growing up. When I first entered pro wrestling, it's kind of funny, like, you would look at a Sting, but I couldn't relate to a Sting because Sting was, like, on this icon status, like, so up here. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen for me. But I saw a Moxley. I'm talking an early John Moxley before he...
CZW
yes,
Moxley? Okay.
Switchblade, yeah. Sami Callihan, John Moxley. And I was like, this is a guy I can relate to. Like, just the grittiness of everything. I was like, that's a guy I feel like I can aspire to be like. So he told, when Moxley says, you weren't ready 5 years ago to be the face of this company. You weren't ready 2 years ago. You ain't ready now. Why would I start taking shortcuts before I even become world champion? That's what I felt in my heart. So I'm I'm the king of taking risk. But this is just to put validation to everybody before I summit the top of AEW that there is no challenge I'm going to back down from.
So last year, I interviewed Chris Jericho, and we talked about the biggest performers that never became World Heavyweight Champion. So he mentions a few icons from the 80s and then talked about today, and he brought you up, saying that you have what it takes to be a world champion. When you hear someone like Jericho say that, or maybe someone like Sting say, hey, it's your time, you're ready, what the hell do you feel? Because that I can't imagine what it's like looking at these people that you, to an extent, idolize and look up to, and they're like, hey, we see it in you.
Yeah, it's wild because I never... entering pro wrestling, it was so intimidating, so intimidating. And then just to know that you can summit the top of somewhere by staying true to yourself, that's like the end of the day, like the only thing I could ask for. So it's kind of like, it's just validation for everything. All the doubt that I had, all the insecurities that I had. It's just like when you got guys that have been in this industry so long saying that you actually have what it takes to be the guy. Because being the guy of a national TV company is no joke. It's no small feat. Like being the face and carrying the championship, the company is pretty much built around you. So it's like all eyes, whether the company does good, that's a reflection of you. Whether the company does bad, that's also a reflection of you. So it's just going to be very interesting.
So I have a few fan questions here, so I'm going to ask you a few of them. So, you got hit by a bus, dog. The fuck happened?
You know Raymond Pettibone?
I know the name. Why do I know the name?
He's the artist of this band called Black Flag. He created the logo, and he created the name of Black Flag, and his artwork is famous. It's in the Museum of Modern Art down here in New York. But he lives down here, so helping. He had a walker.
Okay.
He doesn't got any. He's very slow. He was jaywalking in New York. We were on the way to go see Phantom of the Opera closing weekend, and this bus was taking a turn, and I knew they weren't going to see him, so I had to like shuffle him across. They were taking a right, and mind you, I had a broken foot at the time, so Mr. Darby can't move that fast either. And next thing I knew, I smacked the side of where the window is on my face, and still made it to Phantom of the Opera.
You still made it?
Oh, hell yeah.
There you
It was
go.
closing week. No, Sweeney Todd, my bad. It was Sweeney Todd.
Todd.
It was closing weekend of Sweeney Todd. And I was like, I have to see this.
What did you think of that show? I've seen it. I saw it about a few months ago.
It was pretty cool. Like, I really liked it. I like Broadway shows, and I put myself in the shoes of like people watching it. Like, I was like, I wonder. I'm like really invested. And I know the finish just because who hasn't seen? You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't know anything about Sweeney Todd.
you didn't? You didn't know the movie?
No.
Oh,
I know.
shit.
I know. Like it was a Johnny Depp flick or whatever. But like I never cared to watch it.
Yeah, no. So, but like I was so emotionally invested in that I kind of put myself in the shoes of like, damn. Is this what it feels like for wrestling fans to watch one of my matches? That's pretty cool.
I will say it was kind of cool, the lever gimmick that they had to like slide them down.
That was tight.
It looks like it could be a lot of fun.
yeah, I know.
Do you have any favorite memories of New York City aside from getting hit by a bus?
No, that takes the top of the list. Yeah. No. I love New York. Actually, I kind of like early on in my wrestling career, New York is kind of what made me like I built a really cult following, you would say, in Evolve and Laboom there. Like, that's where I really connected with a group of fans, was in New York for the first time.
Which, by the way, Laboom was like a nightclub in Queens.
Is it still?
Is it still? It still is? Okay. I have a cousin who's a DJ, so that's why I looked at him to get the nod. So Laboom is still a thing? Okay. So it's a nightclub in Queens, and then like they would randomly turn it into like this massive wrestling venue, and they had some really dope shows there.
Yeah,
through the years.
Yeah, very great shows. You know,
Yeah.
the crowd was rabid. I also broke my elbow in that building. You know, shout out Ethan Page breaking my elbow with a shovel.
Can you come to New York and not get hurt?
No.
You went to film school before getting into
dropped
wrestling.
out of film school too, but yeah.
So you dropped out of film school. How do you think going to film school impacted your wrestling persona, if any, if at all?
I think just like the art form of, promos and storytelling, because like when I watch films, I want to watch a film that has a good story. I don't really mind, like I don't really care for films where it's just like explosions. There's no rhyme to the reason. They're just doing shit just to do shit. You know what I mean?
The last 9 Fast and Furious movies,
yeah,
basically?
I haven't seen any of them. But like the thing is, I just like having where the fans would leave and have an emotional like connection to your performance, as opposed to like, that was cool. Because today, in today's world, there's so much going on, especially in wrestling. There's like, oh, crazy match of the year candidate this week, and then all of a sudden, no, this is match of the year, and nothing matters anymore unless I feel like you tell a story. So that's the biggest thing I picked up from film school.
Who do you think is the most underrated performer in AEW today?
It sounds kind of strange to say this, but I think it's Jon Moxley.
Okay.
Because when he first came into this company, he was the guy. Like, I remember just being like, oh my God, this is like game changing for him to show up at Double or Nothing. And I kind of felt like he was just, he kind of like was just another guy for a while. It was weird, you know what I mean? Like, he was thrown into random matches, like just for the sake of it. But if you give John the ball, there's no better performer than him. And I felt like his run last year, he was just he became IWGP like champion, but in the world of AEW, I felt like he was just in like random like tag matches, and I was like, man, this guy legit, I felt something when he came out of Double or Nothing. I felt the energy in the room change. Like, and then now, like, I feel like he's put himself right back into the fold with killing people with plastic bags.
Wild angle, by the way. Who is someone you've always wanted to work with that you never got a chance to?
Brody Lee. by far. You know, like when he first came to AEW, I was like, I went up to Tony Khan. I was like, I need to wrestle that guy. It just never fit. You know, storyline wise, it never fit. And it's very unfortunate, like, of the passing of him. And but that was like the guy. I don't know why. I just felt like there was something we could have done really, really special.
So the final question, this is called the Superstar Crossover for a reason. I want you to have a question for our next guest. I'm going to be interviewing WWE World Heavyweight Champion Cody Rhodes tomorrow. So do you have a question for Cody Rhodes?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for getting me to AEW. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Cody Rhodes, so thank you for Cody Rhodes. So here's a question. Does he think I can actually be the face of AEW? Does he believe I can be the face of AEW? Because he got me here, and he was here from day one when Mr. Darby was so insecure and didn't know his true worth. Does he think I have what it takes to carry AEW in the future?
Do you know your worth now?
Absolutely.
Love that. We should all know our worth, by the way. One more time, let's show some love to Darby Allin.